The phone slipped from Daniel's hand and hit the hospital floor with a sharp crack. Amara's eyes were still heavy from sedation, her fingers trembling from the embryo transfer procedure. The nurse had just stepped out. The room smelled of antiseptic and hope. Daniel bent quickly to retrieve his phone, but not before the screen lit up between them. Last night was perfect. When are you telling her? The name at the top read, Sienna. Amara's heartbeat thundered louder than the IVF monitor. Daniel forced a laugh. Just work. PR team nonsense. Amara didn't blink. She was still lying on the recovery bed, for attached, body aching from hormones and injections, heart breaking in real time. If it's nonsense, she whispered softly, why did she say last night? Daniel's jaw tightened. You're emotional. The doctor said the hormones would make you sensitive. There it was. The gaslight. Calm. Practiced. If this story already has your heart racing, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Because this one only gets worse. Amara turned her face toward the ceiling. 3 years of fertility treatments. 3 years of negative tests. 3 years of crying quietly in bathroom stalls while Daniel attended galas smiling. 3 years of believing they were in it together. The nurse returned, cheerful. Everything went perfectly. Now we wait. Now we wait. Daniel squeezed Amara's hand. We'll finally have our baby. She stared at him. She didn't squeeze back. That night, Daniel said he had an emergency strategy meeting. Amara watched from the bedroom balcony as his car disappeared through the gates of their mansion. She waited exactly 10 minutes before calling her driver. Take me to the Corinthia Hotel. The driver hesitated. Madam? Now. She wore no makeup. No dramatic disguise. Just a long coat over her hospital gown and quiet fury in her chest. She didn't need a room key. She needed confirmation. Room 1708. She knocked once. The door opened halfway. Sienna Blake stood there in silk. Young. Confident. Smirking. For 3 seconds, neither woman spoke. Sienna recovered first. Can I help you? Amara stepped forward slightly. I believe my husband is inside. Sienna's smile faded just enough. You must be mistaken. Daniel's voice came from inside. Who is it? Silence. Then he appeared. The color drained from his face when he saw Amara standing in the hallway. Amara. She held up her hand. Not shaking. Not screaming. Finish your meeting, she said quietly. I'll see you at home. She turned and walked away before either of them could speak. No scene. No tears. But something inside her had shifted permanently. Back home, Daniel stormed in past midnight. You embarrassed me, he snapped. Showing up like that? Amara sat at the dining table, documents spread neatly in front of her. Fertility clinic bills. Bank statements. Hotel charges. You embarrassed yourself, she replied. He scoffed. You're overreacting. During IVF? Her voice cracked for the first time. While I was on a hospital bed trying to give you a child? Daniel ran a hand through his hair. It didn't mean anything. Then why risk everything? He didn't answer. Instead, he tried another tactic. You've been distant for months. Obsessed with this baby. I felt alone too. Amara laughed softly. It wasn't warm. You felt alone? I was injecting hormones into my stomach every night. He paced. Let's not blow this up. We need stability right now. My company is about to secure a major federal logistics contract. If this scandal breaks, investors will panic. There it was. Not remorse. Risk management. Amara leaned back in her chair. So you need me quiet. I need you supportive, he corrected. She studied him. This man she had married against her family's advice. This man who believed she had given up her inheritance to be with him. Go to sleep, Daniel, she said calmly. We'll talk tomorrow. He hesitated, confused by her lack of explosion. When he left the room, she picked up her phone. One call. International line. A man answered immediately. Good evening, Ms. Okoye. Her maiden name. Her real power. I need a full acquisition strategy, she said quietly. Target, Wellington Logistics Group. A pause. Hostile or friendly? Silent. Yes, ma'am. She ended the call. Daniel thought she was a wife trying to save a marriage. He had no idea she was about to become his largest shareholder. The next morning, Daniel kissed her cheek as if nothing had happened. I'll fix this, he promised. She smiled faintly. I know you will. And for the first time since the affair began, Amara felt something stronger than heartbreak. Control. Over the next week, Daniel grew unusually attentive. Flowers. Breakfast in bed. Apologies wrapped in excuses. Meanwhile, in Zurich, shares began to move. Through layered shell companies and private equity vehicles, Amara's family office quietly began purchasing minority stakes in Wellington Logistics. Board members received discreet calls offering premium buyouts. No one mentioned her name. Daniel celebrated the unexpected investor interest. At dinner one evening, he raised a glass. To new opportunities, he said proudly. We're about to enter our biggest growth phase yet. Amara clinked her glass against his. To growth, she repeated. Her phone buzzed under the table. Message from Zurich. 18% secured. She looked at her husband smiling across the candlelight. He thought he was winning. He had no idea she had just entered the game. And she was playing to own everything. Daniel stood at the head of the conference table, confident again. We're back, he announced to his executive team. New capital is coming in. Private foreign investors. Discreet but serious. The CFO frowned. They're buying aggressively. Whoever it is, they're not just investing. They're positioning. Daniel waved it off. Let them. As long as the money flows. Across the city, Amara sat in her private study, her laptop open. The large portrait of her late father hung behind her desk, the only visible reminder of the empire she quietly controlled. Her phone was on speaker. Current acquisition status, she asked calmly. 26% secured, the Zurich advisor replied. 2 board members are leaning toward selling controlling voting rights if the premium increases by 5%. Increase it, she said without hesitation. Yes, ma'am. And initiate background review on all senior executives. A pause. Specifically Daniel Wellington? Yes. She ended the call. For years, Daniel believed Amara had chosen love over wealth. That she had stepped away from the Okoye Global Investment Group to build a modest life beside him. He had never asked too many questions about the trust her father left behind. He assumed it was locked away. He assumed wrong. That evening, Daniel arrived home unusually energized. You won't believe it, he said, loosening his tie. We're close to securing the federal contract. Amara looked up from her tea. Congratulations. He smiled, sitting across from her. You see? Things are turning around. For the company? For us. She studied him carefully. Is Sienna part of this turnaround? His smile faltered. She handles PR. That's all. Does she also handle hotel bookings? His jaw tightened. We said we'd move past this. No, Amara corrected softly. You said that. He exhaled sharply. What do you want from me? Honesty. I told you, it meant nothing. Then end it. Daniel hesitated. That hesitation was louder than any confession. Amara nodded slowly. I understand. Upstairs, alone in their bedroom, she stared at the fertility calendar on the wall. The 2-week wait after embryo transfer felt endless. Her body felt fragile. Her heart, less so. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Mrs. Wellington? The voice was female. Controlled. Slightly nervous. Yes. This is Sienna. Amara leaned against the headboard. I assumed you'd call eventually. There was silence on the other end. I think we should talk, Sienna continued. Woman to woman. Amara almost smiled. About my husband? About reality. Go on. He told me the marriage has been over for years. That you're only staying because of the fertility treatments. Amara's fingers tightened around the phone. And you believed him? He's not happy. Neither am I, Amara replied evenly. But I'm not sleeping with someone else's husband. Sienna's tone hardened. You can't keep a man by force. I never tried to. So what's your plan? Sienna asked sharply. You think IVF will fix everything? Amara's voice dropped. I think you're overestimating your importance. A sharp inhale on the other end. He loves me. Amara closed her eyes briefly. Does he love you enough to lose everything? Silence. What does that mean? Sienna asked carefully. It means, Amara said calmly, you should think very carefully about the position you're in. She ended the call. Downstairs, Daniel's phone lit up seconds later. Sienna, she knows. Daniel rushed upstairs. Did you call her? He demanded. She called me. What did you say? The truth. He ran a hand through his hair. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy everything? Destroy? She repeated softly. You did that the night you chose her. He stepped closer. You think you can survive without me? Amara stood slowly. You've always underestimated me. Daniel laughed bitterly. With what money? Your father's old trust fund? You gave that up. She held his gaze. I gave up nothing. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty. Before he could question further, her phone buzzed again. Message from Zurich. 34% secured. 2 additional board votes likely. CFO flagged liquidity concerns within Wellington Logistics. She looked at Daniel. You should focus on your company, she said quietly. It seems fragile. He scoffed. We're stronger than ever. Meanwhile, at a private cafe across town, Sienna sat with her friend, visibly shaken. She sounded calm, Sienna muttered. Too calm. Maybe she's bluffing, her friend suggested. No. There was something else. Sienna's phone buzzed. Unknown email. Subject, confidential proposal. Inside, a settlement offer. 7 figures. In exchange for signing a strict NDA, immediate resignation, and permanent separation from Wellington Logistics. Sienna's heart pounded. Who would offer this? Daniel didn't have that kind of liquid cash. Attached at the bottom. This offer expires in 48 hours. No sender name. No company signature. Just a legal contact in Zurich. Sienna's hands shook. At home, Daniel paced in his office. His CFO's voice echoed from the speakerphone. "Sir, there's something you need to see." "What now?" "A foreign holding group has acquired 34% voting rights. If they secure 2 more board members, they'll have majority influence." Daniel froze. "Who are they?" "We can't trace it." "Layered acquisitions. Offshore structures." Daniel slammed his hand on the desk. "Find out." Upstairs, Amara stood at the window watching the city lights. Her phone buzzed again. "Status update?" she asked. Board member Hassan agreed to sell. "That brings us to 41%, the advisor replied. "If we secure the remaining 2, control shifts." "And Sienna?" "She's reviewing the NDA." "Good." Amara exhaled slowly. Daniel entered the bedroom. "We have a problem," he said sharply. She turned. "Another one?" "Someone's trying to take control of my company." Her lips curved slightly. "Your company?" "Yes, mine." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Daniel, nothing you built was ever fully yours." He stared at her, confusion deepening. "What are you saying?" She held his gaze for a long moment. "You'll find out soon. If you're still watching, hit that like button right now because the next move? It changes everything." Daniel didn't know it yet. But the woman he betrayed in a fertility clinic was about to become the most powerful person in his professional life. And she wasn't done. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He stayed in his office, calling lawyers, tracing shell corporations, demanding names. "Someone is consolidating voting power," the CFO repeated over speakerphone. "If they hit 51%, they can restructure leadership." "They won't," Daniel snapped. "I built this company from scratch." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Across the hallway, Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her body felt sore from the embryo transfer. Every cramp made her anxious. Every silence made her think. She placed a hand over her stomach. "Stay," she whispered softly. "Please stay." Her phone buzzed at 2:14 a.m. 46% secured, the Zurich advisor said quietly. 2 board members are negotiating final terms. We anticipate majority control within 72 hours. "And liquidity?" Amara asked. Daniel over-leveraged during expansion. If the federal contract fails, the company faces severe exposure. Will it fail? Uncertain. But we've intercepted communication suggesting irregularities in procurement filings. Amara closed her eyes. Daniel had been careless. And arrogant. "Proceed," she said calmly. "Secure full majority." "Yes, ma'am." The next morning, Daniel walked into the kitchen with dark circles under his eyes. "You look tired," Amara observed gently. He poured coffee aggressively. "You wouldn't understand. Try me. There's a silent predator circling my company." She tilted her head. "Maybe it's just evolution." He slammed the mug down. "Stop speaking in riddles." She stood slowly, her tone still calm. "Maybe someone saw weakness." His eyes narrowed. "You think I'm weak?" "I think," she replied, "you underestimated the cost of betrayal." Before he could respond, the doorbell rang. Daniel frowned. "Were you expecting someone?" "No." The housekeeper answered. 2 men in suits stepped inside. "Mr. Wellington," one of them said formally. "We represent Veritas International Holdings." Daniel stiffened. "Never heard of it." "You will," the man replied coolly. "We've recently acquired controlling interest in Wellington Logistics Group." Daniel laughed harshly. "Impossible. 52% as of this morning." The room went silent. Daniel looked at Amara instinctively. Her face revealed nothing. This is hostile, Daniel snapped. You can't just. We can, the lawyer interrupted. And we have. Daniel turned toward Amara slowly. She held his gaze. Who are they? He demanded. She stepped forward, her voice steady. They're mine. The air shifted. The lawyer nodded respectfully toward her. Ms. Okoye. Daniel blinked. What did he call you? Amara didn't look away. Okoye. My maiden name. Daniel shook his head. You don't have that kind of capital. She inhaled slowly. My father built one of the largest private investment groups in Europe and West Africa. I never gave it up. I simply never advertised it. His face drained of color. You lied to me. No, she replied softly. You never asked. The lawyer cleared his throat. There will be an emergency board meeting at noon. Daniel's voice rose. You can't remove me. I'm CEO. For now, Amara said quietly. The lawyers left. Silence swallowed the room. Daniel stepped closer to her. This is insane. You're my wife. You stopped acting like my husband. You're doing this because of Sienna? I'm doing this because you mistook loyalty for weakness. He grabbed her arm, not violently, but desperately. You're going to destroy everything. She gently removed his hand. No. I'm restructuring it. His breathing grew uneven. You're humiliating me. You humiliated yourself. He stared at her, disbelief flooding his features. How long have you been planning this? Since the night I left the fertility clinic and found you in a hotel room. His shoulders slumped. You could have just divorced me. Amara's voice trembled for the first time. You cheated on me while I was trying to carry your child. Daniel opened his mouth, but no defense came. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Update, Sienna Blake has accepted the settlement terms. NDA signed. Resignation effective immediately. Daniel's phone rang at the same time. He answered. What? He barked. The HR director's voice sounded tense. Sir. Sienna submitted her resignation. Effective today. Daniel froze. What? She cited personal reasons. She signed a strict confidentiality agreement with an outside legal firm. Daniel's eyes slowly lifted to Amara. You paid her. She deserved an exit strategy. You bought her silence? Amara's expression hardened. I bought peace. He let out a hollow laugh. You think this makes you powerful? No, she replied. It makes me prepared. Noon arrived. The executive boardroom buzzed with tension. Daniel entered first, trying to reclaim composure. Board members avoided his eyes. Then Amara walked in. Not in soft pastel dresses, but in a tailored black suit. Confident. Controlled. The lawyer announced, majority shareholder present. Daniel stared at the seat at the head of the table. The chair that had always been his. Amara took it without hesitation. The room went silent. Daniel's voice came out strained. This is unnecessary drama. Amara folded her hands calmly. This is accountability. She nodded to the screen. Slides appeared. Financial irregularities. Conflict of interest violations. Internal memos showing Daniel redirecting funds to cover private expenses. Gasps filled the room. Daniel slammed his palm on the table. This is exaggerated. Amara looked directly at him. Is the affair exaggerated? Silence. One board member cleared his throat. Daniel, is this true? He hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Amara spoke softly but firmly. As majority shareholder, I motion for leadership restructuring. Votes were cast. One by one. Against him. Daniel's chest rose and fell rapidly. The final tally appeared. He had lost. He stared at Amara in disbelief. You planned this. She met his eyes. You gave me the reason. The lawyer stood. Effective immediately, Daniel Wellington is removed as CEO pending further review. Daniel's world tilted. Amara didn't flinch. And as security quietly approached, Daniel realized something terrifying. He hadn't just lost his mistress. He hadn't just lost control of his company. He had underestimated the one person who had the power to take everything. And she wasn't finished. Daniel didn't move when security stepped closer. I built this company, he said hoarsely. You can't just erase me. Amara's voice was steady. No one is erasing you. We're correcting leadership risk. Risk? He laughed bitterly. You're my wife. She held his gaze. And you were my husband. Silence suffocated the boardroom. One of the senior directors leaned forward. Daniel, step aside for now. Let the auditors review everything. Daniel looked around the room, searching for loyalty. He found none. Security gently touched his arm. Sir. His shoulders dropped. As he walked out, he turned back to Amara. You'll regret this. She didn't blink. I already regretted staying. The doors closed behind him. The room exhaled. Amara stood slowly. Effective immediately, we initiate a full internal audit. Freeze executive discretionary spending. Reevaluate federal contract exposure. The CFO nodded quickly. Yes, Ms. Okoye. The way they said her name now, with respect, was not lost on her. Inside, her stomach tightened. A wave of nausea hit suddenly. She excused herself and stepped into the private restroom. Her hands trembled as she leaned over the sink. Hormones, she told herself. Stress. She stared at her reflection. You can't fall apart now. Her phone buzzed. The fertility clinic. Her heart stopped. She answered immediately. Mrs. Wellington, the nurse's voice sounded warm. We have your preliminary blood work results. Amara swallowed. Yes? Your HCG levels are strong. The world seemed to pause. Meaning? A gentle laugh. You're pregnant. Her knees nearly gave out. She grabbed the counter. Pregnant. After 3 years. After betrayal. After takeover. Tears streamed down her face silently. Are you okay, ma'am? Yes, she whispered. Thank you. She ended the call and pressed both hands over her stomach. You stayed. A knock interrupted her moment. Ms. Okoye, the CFO's voice sounded concerned. The press has caught wind of the leadership change. They're requesting a statement. She inhaled deeply, wiping her tears. When she stepped back into the boardroom, her face was composed again. No comment on personal matters, she instructed. Frame it as strategic restructuring. And Daniel, someone asked carefully. She paused. Offer him a consulting role. The room exchanged confused glances. Consulting, the CFO repeated. Yes, she said calmly. Temporary. Under supervision. At that exact moment, Daniel's phone buzzed in the parking lot. Unknown number. He answered sharply. What? Your wife just offered you a consulting position, his lawyer said. Daniel froze. What? You'll report to an interim executive board. Compensation reduced. Daniel stared at the towering building that had once felt like his kingdom. "She's humiliating me. She's protecting shareholder confidence," the lawyer replied bluntly. Daniel clenched his jaw. "I want a divorce." "Are you sure?" the lawyer asked carefully. "Her acquisition puts her in a powerful position. A public divorce now could trigger deeper investigation." Daniel hung up. Meanwhile, across town, Sienna sat in her apartment staring at the transfer confirmation in her bank account. 7 figures. Clean. Legal. Final. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel." She hesitated, then answered. "What happened?" he demanded. "You tell me," she replied carefully. "You resigned?" "You think I had a choice?" she shot back. "Your wife offered me a future. You offered me promises." Daniel's voice hardened. "You betrayed me." Sienna laughed coldly. "No, Daniel. I protected myself." "You signed an NDA." "Yes." "So what exactly did she threaten you with?" "She didn't threaten," Sienna replied quietly. "She didn't have to." Daniel's silence stretched. "You underestimated her," Sienna added softly. Then she hung up. Back at the office, Amara stood in the executive suite that once belonged to Daniel. The city skyline stretched endlessly before her. Her phone buzzed again. Message from Zurich. Full control secured. 58% voting power. Federal contract review initiated. Procurement irregularities confirmed. Her jaw tightened. Irregularities? She opened the file. Daniel had accelerated contract bids by redirecting internal compliance oversight. Risky. Possibly illegal. She closed the file slowly. Her baby would not be born into scandal. Daniel stormed into the building hours later. Security hesitated but allowed him upstairs. He entered the executive suite without knocking. "You're enjoying this," he accused. Amara turned slowly. "I'm stabilizing what you destabilized." "You offered me a consulting role?" "Yes." "To what?" "Watch you run my company." "Our company." He laughed bitterly. "You think money makes you superior?" "No," she replied quietly. "Discipline does." His eyes burned. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Her body stilled. "How do you know?" "I know you." Silence filled the space. "Yes," she admitted. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face. That's good," he said softly. "That's what we wanted." "We?" she repeated. He stepped closer. "We can fix this." She held his gaze steadily. "You fixed nothing when I needed you most. I made a mistake. You made a choice." He exhaled sharply. "What do you want from me?" She stepped forward. "Loyalty. Integrity. Accountability. And if I give it?" She paused. "You already showed me who you are." Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another alert. Breaking financial news headline. Wellington Logistics under investigation for procurement irregularities. His blood ran cold. He looked at Amara. "You did this." She shook her head slowly. "No. You did." He whispered, almost to himself, "This could destroy me." Amara placed a hand gently over her stomach. "I won't let it destroy my child." Daniel stared at her as realization fully set in. She wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. She was protecting an empire. And a future. And if that meant sacrificing him completely. She was prepared. The news cycle exploded within hours. Financial analysts debated compliance failures. Business reporters speculated about internal sabotage. Social media turned ruthless. Daniel sat alone in his car outside the mansion, staring at the headline on his phone. Wellington Logistics faces federal scrutiny after leadership shakeup. His name was everywhere. His mistakes were no longer private. Inside the house, Amara stood in the nursery that had never been used. The pale walls, the untouched crib, the quiet hope that had once filled the space. Now she was pregnant. And everything felt different. Her phone buzzed. Zurich. We've contained immediate exposure, her advisor reported. However, regulators will question executive authorization timelines. Meaning, she asked. Daniel may face personal liability. She closed her eyes briefly. How severe? If procurement manipulation is proven, fines at minimum. Potential criminal review if intent is established. She exhaled slowly. Proceed with full cooperation. Transparency across all divisions. Yes, ma'am. She ended the call just as Daniel entered the nursery doorway. He looked exhausted. You're going to let them bury me, he said quietly. Amara turned to face him. I'm preventing them from burying the company. And me? You buried yourself the moment you thought I'd never fight back. He stepped further into the room, his voice cracking slightly. I was scared. Of what? Failure. Pressure. Expectations. He ran a hand through his hair. The federal contract was slipping. Investors were doubting. I needed distraction. From your wife? She asked softly. I needed to feel wanted. Amara stared at him. You were. He swallowed. You think I don't regret it? I think regret only shows up after consequences. He moved closer. This investigation, can you stop it? She shook her head. No. You control the board. I don't control the government. Silence filled the nursery. Daniel's eyes drifted to her stomach. That's my child. Yes. Then don't let me be ruined before they're even born. Her expression hardened. You should have thought about that before risking everything. He let out a frustrated breath. You act like you've never made mistakes. She stepped closer, her voice low. I never betrayed you when you were vulnerable. He had no answer. If you've made it this far, comment below, should she forgive him or finish what she started? Because what happens next changes everything. The next morning, Daniel was summoned to a regulatory review hearing. Amara watched from her office as live coverage began streaming across financial networks. Daniel sat at the witness table, composed but visibly tense. Mr. Wellington, the lead investigator began, did you authorize expedited procurement filings without full compliance review? Daniel hesitated. Amara's phone buzzed simultaneously. Her advisor. Evidence trail is clear, he whispered. He signed off. On screen, Daniel cleared his throat. Yes. The room murmured. Were you aware this violated standard oversight procedure? I believe the urgency justified acceleration. Did you personally benefit from securing the contract early? Daniel paused longer this time. Yes. The words felt like a crack in concrete. Back in her office, Amara felt a sharp cramp. She gripped her desk. Breathe. The doctor had warned her about stress. Her assistant rushed in. Are you all right? I'm fine, she said firmly. But she wasn't. Daniel's voice continued through the screen. I take full responsibility. The hearing adjourned hours later. By evening, Daniel returned home. He looked smaller somehow. They're recommending fines, he said flatly. Possibly stepping down from any executive role for 5 years. Amara nodded slowly. That's lighter than prison. He almost laughed. You sound relieved. I am. He studied her face. You still care. I care about the father of my child not being incarcerated. That's not the same as loving me. She didn't answer. Days passed. The company stabilized under Amara's leadership. Investors regained confidence. Stock prices rebounded. Daniel's name faded from executive listings. One evening, he stood in the living room holding divorce papers. I spoke to my lawyer, he said quietly. Amara looked up from the sofa. You're filing? Yes. Her heart thudded once, heavily. I won't fight you, she said. He swallowed. You're not asking for alimony? She almost smiled. I own the company, Daniel. He nodded slowly. What about custody? Her eyes hardened instantly. Shared, she said. But supervised until the investigation closes. He looked wounded. You don't trust me. I don't trust the man you became. Silence lingered between them. I loved you, he said softly. I loved who I thought you were. He looked around the house, the mansion he once believed symbolized his success. It was never really mine, was it? She held his gaze. No. Weeks later, Sienna saw the final news report. Daniel Wellington formally resigns amid compliance fallout. Company rebounds under new chairwoman Amara Okoye. She stared at the screen. She won, her friend whispered. Sienna shook her head slowly. No. She protected herself. Back at the mansion, Amara stood by the window, one hand resting on her growing stomach. Her phone buzzed again. A final confirmation from Zurich. All restructuring complete. Personal assets fully shielded. Divorce settlement secured. She exhaled slowly. Daniel entered one last time to collect his remaining belongings. They stood facing each other in the grand foyer. This is it, he said. Yes. He looked at her stomach again. I hope our child knows I tried. She met his eyes calmly. Make sure they know you learned. He hesitated. I underestimated you. Yes, she replied softly. And I paid for it. Yes. He gave a small nod. Then he walked out. The door closed behind him. Amara stood alone in the silence. But she wasn't broken. She wasn't abandoned. She wasn't powerless. She was pregnant. She was in control. And she had turned betrayal into strategy. The first contraction hit at 3:17 a.m. Amara was alone in the mansion when the sharp pain tightened across her abdomen. She gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, breathing slowly. Too early, she whispered. She was only 8 months along. Her phone lay on the marble surface in front of her. For a split second, she considered calling Daniel. Then another contraction hit. Stronger. She called her doctor instead. Within 20 minutes, she was on her way to the hospital. The same hospital. The same hallway. The same sterile scent that once held betrayal. But this time, she wasn't naive. She wasn't hopeful. She was prepared. In the delivery room, monitors beeped steadily. Nurses moved quickly but calmly. You're under stress, the doctor said. We need to stabilize you. Amara nodded, gripping the sheets. Between contractions, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Then again. Finally, she answered. Ms. Okoye, a male voice asked urgently. Yes. This is from the Federal Review Board. There's been an update regarding Daniel Wellington. Her chest tightened. What kind of update? New evidence has surfaced suggesting a whistleblower altered documentation prior to executive approval. She blinked through pain. What does that mean? It suggests Mr. Wellington may not have initiated the irregularities. Her breath caught. Who did? We're still investigating. But initial findings point to internal PR correspondence. PR. Sienna. Another contraction tore through her before she could process it. Call me back, she gasped, dropping the phone. Hours later, as dawn painted the sky pale gold, a baby's cry filled the room. Amara collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. It's a girl, the nurse whispered, placing the baby gently on her chest. Amara stared down at her daughter. Tiny. Perfect. Alive. Welcome to the world, she whispered. Her phone buzzed again on the side table. This time, she answered calmly. Yes? We confirmed it, the investigator said. Sienna Blake submitted falsified compliance urgency emails under Mr. Wellington's authorization code. We traced IP discrepancies. Amara's heart pounded. Did Daniel know? At this stage, evidence suggests he did not. She closed her eyes. Sienna hadn't just been an affair. She had been protecting herself. Manipulating the timeline. If Daniel fell, she walked away clean. Amara felt something complicated rise in her chest. Not forgiveness. Not regret. But clarity. Later that afternoon, Daniel arrived at the hospital. He looked hesitant at the doorway. Amara watched him quietly. You can come in, she said softly. He stepped closer to the bed. When he saw the baby, his composure cracked. His voice broke. She's beautiful. Amara nodded. He reached out carefully, cradling their daughter in his arms. Tears slipped down his face. I don't deserve this, he whispered. No, Amara replied honestly. But she does. He looked up at her. I heard about the update, he said. My lawyer called. She studied his face. Did you know? No, his eyes filled again. I was reckless. But I didn't sabotage my own company. Silence stretched between them. I believed you were capable of anything, she admitted quietly. I was capable of betrayal, he said. But not destruction. She watched him hold their daughter. The man who had hurt her. The man who had underestimated her. The man who was still her child's father. You still removed me, he said softly. Yes. You bought her silence. Yes. You didn't trust me enough to ask. Her jaw tightened slightly. You didn't trust me enough to stay faithful. He nodded slowly. That's fair. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was their baby breathing. I don't want your company back, Daniel said quietly. I don't want power. I just want a chance to be a father. Amara held his gaze. That will depend on consistency. Not promises. He nodded. I'll prove it. Weeks later, the full investigation report became public. Sienna Blake was charged with corporate fraud and document falsification. Her settlement NDA held no protection against criminal misconduct. Daniel was officially cleared of intentional procurement manipulation but remained cited for executive negligence. Wellington Logistics stabilized fully under Amara's leadership. Stock prices reached record highs. Interviews poured in. One journalist asked her directly during a televised segment. Ms. Okoye, do you believe your husband was a victim of circumstance? She paused carefully before answering. I believe people reveal who they are under pressure. Sometimes that revelation hurts. Sometimes it teaches. And your marriage? She looked into the camera steadily. My priority is my daughter. After the interview, Daniel met her outside the studio. You didn't destroy me, he said quietly. I didn't save you either, she replied. He nodded. You didn't have to. Months passed. Co-parenting routines formed. Daniel showed up to every pediatric appointment. Every early morning feeding. Every late-night emergency. He never asked about the company again. One evening, as Amara watched her daughter sleep, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. Daniel stood in the doorway. "I was wrong about you," he said. "Yes. I thought love made you soft." She looked at him calmly. "Love made me strategic." He gave a faint smile. "You used your hidden fortune to buy my company." "Yes." "And my mistress's silence." "Yes." He exhaled slowly. "I deserved it." She didn't respond. Because this was never about revenge. It was about protection. Protection of her child. Her future. Her dignity. And sometimes, power isn't loud. Sometimes it waits quietly. Until it's needed. If you've stayed until the very end of this story, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and comment your thoughts below. Should she ever fully forgive him? Or was this the only ending possible? Because one thing is certain. He cheated on her during IVF. And she responded not with chaos, but with control.